Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. Today's tasty treat is cherry pecan brie en croute, and this is very good and very fancy and sounds fancy when you say it. So it's one of those things that's fun to say, brie en croute. Makes you sound like you're fancy. So here you go. I love this stuff. I mean, I can eat some of this stuff. I really love it. And it uses brie, a round of brie cheese, and puff pastry, and it transforms it into this delightful and amazing thing that you will truly, truly love. And like I said, you're going to use puff pastry. Sperdute Farms makes a very nice puff pastry. It's in the freezer section of your grocery store. And puff pastry is a really fun thing to play with. You can make your own little turnovers and stuff like that. So if you have a bunch left over, have some fun with it. Let your kids make things with it. You can sprinkle cinnamon sugar on it and bake it, and it makes these little crispy, crunchy, fluffy, layered things. It's just really good. So here's the recipe you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need a box of Pepperidge Farm puff pastry, starting off, and you're going to need a round of brie, probably about a 15-ounce round of brie. President is a good brand. They usually come in a cute little box in your cheese department of your grocery store. You'll need dried cherries. You're going to use about a third cup, so probably a small package of dried cherries. And I like the dried sour cherries for this. There's a lot of different kinds, some that they call cherry berries, and it's like 3 different kinds of cherries mixed together. But if you get the dried sour cherries, those work really well. You're going to need a 4th cup of chopped toasted pecans. You can toast your own pecans by just putting them, take a baking sheet, put some foil on it, and put them in your oven at about 350 for maybe, 15 or 20 minutes until you begin to smell that good pecan smell. And then they're ready. You're going to need a 4th cup of honey in this recipe. You're going to need a little water that you're going to be using. You'll need an egg, 1 egg. And then you're going to need either a baking sheet or if you have about an 8-inch round stoneware baking dish, they work really nice for this because they contain the brie en croute in the dish, and then you can serve it in that same dish. You can take it right out of the oven and it stays nice and warm. And what's going to happen to your fabulous round of brie here is it's going to melt inside of this crispy puff pastry crust, and then when you cut it to serve it, all of that delicious cherry juice and honey is going to run down over it. It's a fabulous thing. The flavors are wonderful. Okay, well, how do you make this? First of all, preheat your oven to 400 degrees and get your baking pan ready. Either, like I said, your about 8-inch round stoneware baking dish or a baking sheet of some sort. You don't have to grease or anything like that. Don't worry about that. And you want to take that 1 egg and 1 tablespoon of water and beat that in a small bowl with a fork or a whisk. And you want to beat it up until it's very well blended. You're going to use that to brush over your puff pastry and give it a beautiful golden texture. In another bowl, take your cherries, your 3rd cup of dried cherries, and add a 1/2 cup of very hot water to them and let them stand for a couple minutes in that bowl, maybe like 2 to 3 minutes to soften them, and then drain the water out. Now to that same bowl, I want you to add the chopped toasted pecans, 4th cup of chopped toasted pecans, and the 4th cup of honey, and mix those together well. That's going to be our little filling/topping that's going to go in. Once you have all of your little things ready, you're going to take the pastry sheets, and I should have mentioned this earlier. You want to take your pastry sheet out of the freezer and just let it set out at room temperature for a minute to get it ready to be opened up. And you want to take either a big cutting board or a pastry board or pad of some sort, flour that, and unfold a pastry sheet onto that surface. You want to roll that then into about a 14-inch square, so take your floured rolling pin and just carefully roll that sheet out to make it into a 14-inch square, and then cut it round to form a circle. So you kind of the easiest way to do this is to take a pizza cutter and just kind of cut the corners off of it so it's almost perfectly round. It's not going to be perfectly round, but almost perfectly round. Okay? Save those little edges you cut off for decorating the top of this if you so choose. Now what you want to do is right in the middle of that dough circle, you're going to spoon that cherry mixture right in the middle of the circle, okay? Then you're going to take your Brie cheese round and you're going to unwrap it. They come in a little box and they're wrapped inside the box. So you're just going to take that out, take the wrapping off of it, and then set that right on top of your cherry pecan mixture, cherry pecan honey mixture. Then you're going to brush the edges of the circle with your egg water mix, and you're going to start folding that up over the cheese to cover it. You want it to be a nice packet in there. And the puff pastry should stick to itself. So make sure you might want to take your pastry brush as you fold it up and just hit the spot and then press it down, hit the spot, press it down. Once you get that all on there, you want to seal that up very nicely in there because you don't want everything leaking out when you bake it. Okay, once you get that folded up over the cheese to cover, you can trim off any excess pastry that's like piling up and getting thick there and just press that really good to seal it. And then brush the seams with the egg mixture. Make sure it's nicely coated with the egg. Then you're going to flip that over seam side down onto your baking sheet or into your 8 or so inch diameter stoneware baking dish. Now, on the top of it, if you want to decorate the top of it, you can cut sort of like petals or like sort of triangle shapes out of the leftover dough. And working from the outside in, just take that egg wash and paint the top of it and stick them on into sort of like a sunflower pattern and work your way into the middle to use up that extra dough. And then when it's done, it'll puff up and kind of look like a flower, okay? If you don't want to do that, you do not have to decorate it. You can put a letter on there if you want. If it's somebody's birthday, whatever. Do whatever you want to. When you're done decorating, brush the whole outside of it with the egg mixture. You want to make sure it's nicely coated with it. Now you're going to put that into the oven, 25 minutes, and bake it until the pastry is golden brown. And when it's done, it'll be beautiful and shiny looking from the egg. And then you're going to let that stand for 45 minutes before serving. Now, you can serve this with crackers or you can serve this with toast points. If you want to do toast points, it's really easy to do them. And here's how. You can either use olive oil or butter for this. And what you want to do is get some a nice dense sourdough sort of a bread or a good bowl at the grocery store, and then slice it into about 3/8 inch thick, not 3 inch, that'd be a heck of a piece of toast, but 3/8 inch thick slices, okay? And when you have your slices done, then cut them in half and cut them in quarters so they look like little pointy triangles. Of course, if you're using a rounded loaf, they're going to look, I don't know what they're going to look like, but don't worry about that. So you're going to cut them into 4 slices, each of your pieces. Put them on a cookie sheet, baking sheet that has been sprayed with olive oil, okay? And then spray the bread with olive oil and put that in the oven and let that toast in your oven. Keep an eye on it. Probably it'll take about 5 minutes to 10 minutes. So you can do this while your brie is standing for the 45 minutes, okay, just to settle in its little pocket there. When you take them out of the oven, you can either brush them with melted butter, which is unbelievably delicious, or you can brush them with olive oil and sprinkle a tiny bit of salt on them, and then serve these with the brie en croute. Delicious. And what you want to do when you serve it, if you've never had this or made this before, you'll just take that round and cut a little slice out of it like you were slicing a pie. Take a little slice out of it. You're going to want to have a little server there that you can lift it with. And just lift that out and put it onto the plate and have a knife available to spread that onto your crackers or your toast. And it is delicious. It is absolutely delicious. This is a nice appetizer for when friends are coming over, girls' night out or whatever. This is a really nice appetizer to have. It doesn't transport well. Not that you can't transport it, but if you're going to transport it, bake it in a round pan. Like I said, make it in, either use the stoneware pan or you could even use a round cake pan, because that way you don't have to take it off of the cake pan. You can just give it that 45-minute time is when you're taking it to your friend's house. So this is a really good, nice looking appetizer, impressive, and there's not really much to it. Really not much at all, but it's very, very good, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. This might be one you might want to put in your recipe file for the holidays too. It's very nice at Christmas time, very nice for Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve. It's nice for those kind of things because it seems a bit fancy, and it's really not that hard. Now you'll have an extra piece of puff pastry left because you'll use only one sheet. So that other piece of puff pastry, have fun with it. You can put anything in a puff pastry, and we'll talk about that in a later episode too. But it's so fun to play around with puff pastry. Make your own little fruit turnovers, put a little drizzle of white icing on them. You can fill them with like spinach and feta, that sort of thing. You can do anything with them. So we'll probably have to have a separate episode on what to do with your extra sheet of puff pastry. So.
Make sure to check us out online on Facebook and Instagram at Mary Mac Bakehouse, on Twitter at Mary Mac Podcast and at Mary Mac Mixes, and on our website, marymacpodcast.com.
Thanks a lot for listening if you did, and if you didn't, too bad for you.